The power of the subconscious mind is a truth that the majority ignore, yet it holds the key to nearly every form of success imaginable. While they watch, you work. While the average person lies in bed scrolling through meaningless content or rehashing the chaos of the day, you work, the 1%. The rare individuals who shape the world rather than react to it. Understand that just before sleep is when the real work begins. You work, not in the outer world, but in the inner world of thought, belief, and imagination. You see, the subconscious mind does not sleep when you do. It is alert, open. You work, and deeply impressionable in those final moments before you drift off. It listens without judgment, without analysis. Whatever you impress upon it in that quiet, drowsy state becomes fertile ground for ideas, solutions, beliefs, and patterns to take root. This is why the most successful people in history, you work, from great inventors to industrial titans, have harnessed this precise window of time to plant the seeds of their future. They do not waste it. They do not treat it casually. They approach it like a sacred ritual. Think of the mind as a garden. In the daytime, it is being bombarded by distractions. Weeds that blow in from everywhere, news, gossip, stress, demands, noise. But at night, when the world slows and the body rests, the garden is quiet and the soil is soft. That is the time to plant with intention. And what do the 1% plant? Thoughts of victory, thoughts of purpose, images of the life they are building, not the life they are trying to escape from. They speak silently to themselves in that moment, affirming their deepest desires, reinforcing their chief aim, and commanding the subconscious to begin its unseen work. This isn't magic. It's mental discipline. The subconscious does not differentiate between what is real and what is vividly imagined. If you feed it fear, it creates more fear. If you feed it vision, it begins to pull circumstances toward that vision. The top performers in any field, in business, sports, science, or art, are not simply talented. They are aligned. Their conscious mind and subconscious are rowing in the same direction, and that alignment is often forged at night, before sleep. What separates the exceptional from the ordinary is not access to information. It's the use of mental habits like this. The average person lets their mind wander aimlessly into sleep, dwelling on frustrations, replaying arguments, or worrying about the future. You work. That's like handing the subconscious a recipe for confusion and expecting clarity in the morning. The elite don't make that mistake. They set the tone. They give their subconscious a clear order. This is what I want. This is who I am. This is what I am becoming. Over time, these repeated suggestions harden into belief, and belief becomes behavior, and behavior becomes results. This is how success begins. Not with money, not with contacts, but with thought. Persistent, focused, intentional thought. So the next time you prepare for bed, remember this. Your final thoughts before sleep are not insignificant. They are the marching orders your subconscious will obey all night long. Use them wisely. You are always programming your mind. The only question is, are you doing it by design or by default? The 1% choose design. You work, and that choice makes all the difference. There is a timeless principle that sits at the core of all personal achievement, yet is often misunderstood or overlooked. It is the principle of definiteness of purpose. The 1%, those rare individuals who achieve lasting success, wealth, and impact, do not drift through life hoping things will fall into place. They do not rely on chance or wait for the world to hand them their destiny. They decide with unwavering clarity what they want. They define it. They commit to it. And they repeat it every single day, especially before they go to sleep. You see, the average person lives reactively. They bounce from one idea to another, one desire to the next, often changing course when things become difficult. Their goals are vague, their dreams loosely formed, their actions inconsistent. While they watch work, but the elite understand something the masses do not. The mind cannot produce anything of power without a definite focus. Just like a magnifying glass can channel sunlight into a burning flame only when it concentrates on a single point. Your mind can ignite results only when it is fixed firmly on a single purpose. Before sleep, the 1% return to that purpose. They do not go to bed with scattered intentions. They reconnect with the very reason they rise each morning. They repeat their major goal, silently or even aloud, not as a wish, but as a command. They review it with emotion. They imprint it on the subconscious as a clear instruction. Why? Because the mind, especially the subconscious mind, must be directed. If you do not give it a purpose, it will drift into anxiety, self-doubt, or chaos. Let me give you a truth that may surprise you. Your subconscious is loyal. It wants to serve you. But it can only serve what you consistently feed it. The 1% feed it with vision and direction. The rest feed it with fear and uncertainty. Every night before they sleep, you work. The successful reinforce their primary aim, not just to feel inspired, but to build mental alignment. When your dominant thoughts are unclear, you work. Your actions will be scattered. But when your dominant thoughts are definite, your behavior becomes laser-focused. This definiteness of purpose also becomes a filter for daily decisions. When your goal is crystal clear, you work. You no longer waste time on distractions that don't align with it. You begin to say no to what doesn't matter. You begin to attract ideas, people, and circumstances that move you forward. But it all starts with clarity. And clarity begins in the mind, practiced night after night, until it becomes automatic. This is not wishful thinking. This is strategic conditioning. The mind is shaped through repetition. And there is no more powerful time to repeat your goal than in those last few moments before sleep. Why? Because your conscious mind is quiet. The noise is gone. The gates to the subconscious are open. That is the golden moment. And those who understand it use it with precision. They don't allow themselves to drift into unconsciousness like leaves in the wind. They take control. They go to bed with purpose. And that purpose becomes the foundation for what they build in waking life. Every skyscraper begins with a blueprint. Every symphony begins with a note. Every success story begins with a clearly defined purpose. Revisit it often and especially before rest. The scent know this, and they do not stray from it. You work. While others chase shortcuts, they return each night to their mission, quietly repeating their vision in their minds, letting it sink deep into the fertile soil of the subconscious. And from that soil, greatness grows. So ask yourself tonight, not what you want someday, not what you wish could happen, but what is your definite chief aim? And are you feeding it daily? Are you reinforcing it before sleep? Because the 1% are, and that is why they lead. While they work, auto-suggestion is one of the most powerful, yet underestimated, tools available to the human mind. Why watch you work? It is the act of intentionally directing your thoughts, not once, not occasionally, but repeatedly, until they sink beneath the surface of consciousness and begin to shape your beliefs, habits, and actions automatically. The top 1% in any field understand and apply this technique daily, especially right before they sleep. It is not a trick of the mind. It is a deliberate system of self-conditioning that transforms ordinary thinking into extraordinary outcomes. At its core, while auto-suggestion is the practice of feeding your subconscious with statements of belief and intent. These statements, you when emotionally charged and persistently repeated, become internal instructions. They rewrite the inner dialogue, replacing doubt with certainty, hesitation with confidence, and fear with conviction. But here's what separates the 1% from everyone else. They do not rely on random positive thinking. They design their affirmations carefully, and they deliver them with feeling and faith, especially at the most potent moment, right before sleep. Why before sleep? Because that is when the mind is most open. During the day, your conscious mind acts like a gatekeeper, filtering ideas, questioning suggestions, and challenging unfamiliar thoughts. But at night, as the body relaxes and the day's activity winds down, that gatekeeper lowers its guard. The subconscious becomes more receptive, more sensitive to repeated thoughts. It listens without judgment, and it begins to act upon what it hears. So the 1% use this window of time with discipline. They do not allow the final thoughts of their day to be random or negative. They take command. They speak affirmations designed to reinforce their identity, goals, and values. Statements like, I am the architect of my success. I am attracting the right people and opportunities. My mind is focused. My purpose is clear. I take decisive action. These are not empty words. They are mental instructions. They are messages sent directly to the subconscious, repeated night after night, until they become embedded as truth. This isn't about lying to yourself. It's about choosing your beliefs on purpose. While the reality is, everyone is using auto-suggestion. Most just do it unconsciously. They repeat phrases like, I can't, I'm not good enough, nothing ever works for me. And those thoughts become self-fulfilling. The 1% flip the process. They feed their minds with the kind of thoughts that build, expand, and drive them toward their vision. But repetition alone is not enough. Emotion is the amplifier. When affirmations are delivered with genuine feeling, with belief, with excitement, with anticipation, they sink deeper. The subconscious does not respond to monotone words. It responds to passion. You work. That's why those in the 1% visualize while they affirm. They don't just say the words. They see themselves living them. They feel the victory before it's real. They act as though the goal is already accomplished. And in doing so, they close the gap between desire and reality. Over time, this repeated programming alters their behavior. It shapes how they speak, how they carry themselves, what they pursue, and how they respond to challenges. It builds resilience. It attracts opportunity. And most importantly, it creates internal alignment, where every part of their mind, conscious and subconscious, is pulling in the same direction. So what does this mean for you? It means that the thoughts you whisper to yourself before sleep are not meaningless. They are your instructions for the future. If you want to rise, to grow, to build the life you envision, you must begin to suggest it to yourself, intentionally, repeatedly, and emotionally. The 1% are not lucky. You work, they are programmed. And they do the programming themselves, starting with auto-suggestion every night. Mental rehearsal and visualization are two of the most valuable mental tools used by the top percent, and they apply them with surgical precision, particularly before sleep. To the average person, visualization may sound like daydreaming or imagination. But to those who have studied the laws of the mind and harnessed them to build wealth, influence, and power, visualization is a EU discipline, not a fantasy. You work. It is a method of impressing the subconscious with a vivid picture of desired outcomes, one that gradually transforms thought into belief, and belief into reality. Every night, before surrendering to sleep, high achievers take time to rehearse tomorrow. They don't allow the events of the next day to arrive like a surprise. Instead, they pre-play them. If they have a meeting, you work. They see themselves walking into the room with confidence. If they face a decision, they picture themselves choosing wisely and decisively. If a challenge lies ahead, they visualize themselves overcoming it with poise and clarity. They see it all, not vaguely, but in detail. And this mental movie, repeated over time, prepares the mind and body to carry out the very actions they have rehearsed. This process is not new. Champions in sports have used it for decades. Entrepreneurs and top executives use it. Artists and inventors use it. Why? Because the subconscious mind does not distinguish between a vividly imagined experience and a real one. When you mentally rehearse a successful action, you are literally training your nervous system and wiring your brain for performance. And when this is done consistently, the gap between imagination and execution narrows. The time before sleep is uniquely powerful for this practice. The brain moves into slower brainwave states, alpha and theta, where the subconscious becomes more receptive and the mind is less resistant. You work. That means the pictures you paint in this window of time go deeper. They linger. They work on you throughout the night. You work, quietly shaping how you respond when the real moment arrives. But it's not enough to merely picture the result. The most effective visualization includes emotion. You must feel what success would feel like. What would you feel if your goals were already achieved? Relief, pride, gratitude, joy. That emotional charge is the signal that tells the subconscious us this is important. Without emotion, the picture fades. With it, the picture becomes magnetic. This practice of mental rehearsal has another benefiting: it reduces anxiety. When you've already seen yourself succeed in your mind, you work, the fear of the unknown begins to fade. You've already walked through the moment. You've felt it. You've lived it mentally. So when the real moment arrives, it's familiar. Confidence rises. Performance improves. You work. This is how elite individuals walk into high-pressure situations with composure. Not because they're fearless, but because they've mentally been there 100 times. In addition, this nightly visualization helps focus the mind. It reduces scattered thinking and brings clarity to your actions. When you see your future with detail and repetition, your brain begins to prioritize the people, information, and opportunities that support that vision. You become more alert to what aligns with your goals and more immune to distractions. Your life begins to organize itself around the image you hold most frequently. Let this be your practice each night. Before you sleep, take 5 to 10 minutes and mentally walk through the best version of tomorrow. See yourself living it with purpose and grace. Picture your goals already completed. Feel the emotion. Speak the outcome into existence through your imagination. Over time, what you rehearse will become your reality, not by chance, but by design. This is how the 1% prepare for success. They watch. They live it in their minds before it ever happens in the world. Gratitude is more than a polite habit or a spiritual sentiment. It is a strategic mental practice used by the percent to create clarity, calm, and power. Especially before sleep, gratitude acts as a mental gateway. It shifts the focus of the mind from chaos to order, from scarcity to abundance, and from stress to serenity. While most people end their day burdened by regrets, worries, or unfinished tasks, you work. The most successful individuals consciously direct their minds to recognize what is already working in their lives. This is not denial. It is mastery of focus. You see, the subconscious mind responds to the emotional state you hold in the final moments before sleep. While they watch, if you go to bed thinking about everything that went wrong, everything you fear, and everything that's missing, you work. You're effectively programming your inner mind to carry those same patterns into the next day. But if you close your day in gratitude, you send a different signal, one of confidence, contentment, and perspective. You train your mind to seek the good, and in doing so, you begin to attract more of it. The 1% understand this clearly. They don't leave it to chance. As part of their nightly mental ritual, they take time, even just a few minutes, to review the day through the lens of appreciation. They ask themselves questions like, what did I do well today? Who helped me? What am I thankful for in my business, my health, my relationships? And no matter how challenging the day might have been, while they find something to acknowledge. It could be a breakthrough, a kind word, a step forward, even a lesson learned from a setback. This act of reflection is powerful because what you focus on expands. And when you focus on progress instead of problems, your energy shifts from anxiety to peace. But the power of gratitude goes even further. It puts you in a receiving state. The mind that is thankful is open. It is not locked in resistance or fear. It is ready. This openness allows new ideas, new insights, and even solutions to problems to emerge. The most successful people know that when they express sincere gratitude before sleep, their subconscious goes to work from a place of abundance, not lack. And this difference changes everything. Gratitude also strengthens mental resilience. Life is not free from challenge, even for the top percent. They face setbacks, criticism, delays, and disappointments. But gratitude becomes their anchor. It prevents discouragement from taking root. While they watch you work, it reminds them that progress is being made even when the results aren't visible yet. And by affirming what is good, even in difficult moments, they maintain emotional control. They don't collapse under pressure, they rise above it, guided by a perspective rooted in appreciation, not complaint. Before sleep, gratitude also serves a physical function. It calms the nervous system. You work, it lowers stress levels. It helps the body release tension and the mind to release worry. This results in deeper, more restorative sleep, which in turn improves focus, decision-making, and performance the next day. The 1% don't just practice gratitude because it feels good. They practice it because it works. It improves results. If you want to think like the elite, you must feel like the elite. And gratitude is the fastest way to elevate your emotional state. So before you sleep tonight, don't review your failures. You work, don't replay your mistakes. Instead, write down or mentally repeat 5 things you're truly thankful for. Big or small, let that feeling soak into your mind. Let it become your final message to your subconscious. Because while fear paralyzes and doubt delays, gratitude empowers. It opens the door to more. More peace, more clarity, more success. And that is why the 1% make it a nightly habit. While they watch you work, one of the most powerful yet overlooked habits of the top 1% is their ability to eliminate mental clutter before they sleep. While the masses end their day by mentally dragging unresolved worries, negative conversations, and to-do lists into bed, you work. The elite do something radically different. They clear the slate. They understand that a mind filled with noise cannot operate at peak performance. A cluttered mind leads to scattered focus, emotional fatigue, poor decision-making, and ultimately stagnation. That is why the successful make it a deliberate practice to declutter their thoughts before sleep. Not once in a while, but every single night. Mental clutter isn't always obvious. It can come in the form of regret about something said earlier in the day, lingering irritation from a disagreement, anxiety about upcoming responsibilities, or a general sense of overwhelm. Left unchecked, these thoughts create a constant hum of mental static that blocks intuition, creativity, and clarity. But the 1% are not casual with their inner world. They watch you work. They treat their thoughts like a garden, regularly weeding out what doesn't belong so that focus and vision can flourish. While they watch you, the nightly ritual of mental decluttering is how they maintain that sharp edge. Some do it through journaling, a simple, powerful technique to process and release. They might write about what happened during the day, what frustrated them, what they're worried about, you work, or what they need clarity on. The act of putting thoughts on paper serves as a psychological release. It tells the brain, this has been acknowledged. It doesn't need to stay in my head anymore. Others use meditation or stillness, closing their eyes and allowing thoughts to come and go without judgment, simply observing them and letting them dissolve. The goal is not to suppress thought, but to organize it, to filter the meaningful from the meaningless. You work to decide what deserves attention and what should be discarded. Just as you wouldn't go to bed in a room filled with loud noise and bright lights. You shouldn't go to bed with a mind in chaos. The 1% know that clarity is a competitive advantage, and that clarity begins by a clearing. This clearing process also has a more profound effect, and it creates space for intentional thought. Once the mind is quiet, you can then fill it with purpose, with affirmations, visualizations, or clear instructions to your subconscious. You work. You cannot program a mind that is still processing emotional debris. You must empty the cup before you fill it. And that's why mental decluttering is the step that precedes autosuggestion, visualization, or any other performance-enhancing routine. Without it, while those practices lose their power, another benefit of removing mental clutter is better sleep. The body may lie down, but the mind doesn't rest until it feels complete. If you're mentally juggling a dozen concerns, your sleep will be shallow, restless, or fragmented. The 1% don't just value sleep as a biological necessity. They protect it as a performance tool. They know that deep, while they watch you work, undisturbed sleep is essential to thinking clearly, leading effectively, and sustaining high output. So they do the work in advance. They empty the mind so the body can restore. This practice also contributes to long-term emotional stability. By processing their thoughts daily, the elite avoid buildup. They don't allow small irritations to grow into major resentments. They don't bury stress until it erupts. They address things promptly, even if only privately, through thought or writing. While they watch you work, that emotional hygiene gives them an edge that most underestimate. So if you wish to rise above the noise, both in the world and your mind, begin each night by decluttering. Reflect, write, breathe, observe. Do whatever it takes to clear the mental desk. Because a focused mind is a powerful mind, and those who sleep with a clear mind wake up with a clear purpose. While the average person ends their day and drifts into unconsciousness without a second thought, the top 1% understand something profoundly different. The subconscious mind doesn't sleep when the body does. It continues to operate, process, and create. And the most successful individuals deliberately program the night shift. They don't just go to bed. They give their mind an assignment. They plant ideas, questions, or desires into their subconscious before sleep, knowing that the mind will work on them through the night, often delivering insights, clarity, or unexpected breakthroughs by morning. This habit is subtle, invisible to the outside world, yet it plays a massive role in long-term success. While they work, you may not see it, but it's happening in the background, like an architect drawing blueprints while the conscious self rests. You work. The subconscious is the silent engineer of your future. While you sleep, it works with the instructions you gave it. That's why the 1% are intentional about what they feed it in those final moments before bed. The process is simple but powerful. Just before sleep, they ask themselves questions, review goals, or affirm desires. They may reflect on a specific challenge and ask, "You work. What is the best solution to this?" Or they may reinforce a specific outcome they're working toward. "How can I grow my business faster?" Or, "What steps should I take to reach my next financial milestone?" These aren't just questions for the sake of curiosity. They are commands issued to the subconscious mind, with the understanding that it will go to work on them while the conscious mind is resting. This is not superstition. It is how the human brain is wired. Throughout history, inventors, writers, entrepreneurs, and leaders have spoken of receiving their best ideas upon waking. That's not coincidence. You work. It's the result of subconscious problem solving, the fruit of giving your mind something meaningful to chew on during the night. You work. The 1% have learned to tap into this hidden power. They trust that the subconscious will process, filter, and prioritize what they focus on most. And they use sleep as a tool, not just a biological need. But this process depends on one critical element. You work, intentionality. You must give your mind something to work on. If you don't, it will default to whatever content dominated your thoughts that day. Often stress, confusion, or fear. The subconscious is not creative in the sense of random genius. It is responsive. It takes the raw material you give it and begins to connect, assemble, and restructure it. If the input is random, the output will be the same. But if the input is specific, the results can be astonishing. Over time, you work. This nightly practice of subconscious programming can transform the way you live. You begin to wake up with answers to problems you were stuck on. You start making decisions more effortlessly because your inner mind has already sorted the options. You notice synchronicities, people, resources, or opportunities aligning with the exact goal you've been rehearsing. It feels like luck to others, but to the 1%, it's a result of mental alignment created through consistent intention. This is how success becomes natural, not forced, not chaotic, but flowing. Because when your subconscious is working with you, guided and focused, you stop pushing against resistance and start moving with clarity. So tonight, ask your subconscious a question. Remind it of your deepest desire. Picture the life you are building. Give it direction and then let go. Let it work while you rest. Because the 1% don't waste the night. They use it. They understand that while others are simply sleeping, they are building. Not with their hands, but with their mind. Quietly, consistently. And that is how greatness is shaped in the dark, long before it shines in the daylight.